So that's like half the job is just like making sure that the kids are able to breathe through their nose. It's just like that doesn't like harden and metastasize into like their like I don't know. Life moves on. Not even all my babies. Anyways. All right, guys. Let's just start the episode. Click.
Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh. Why don't you come over and talk about it?
Because we're a little behind.
Keep that part in. Keep that part in.
I want to do what you say. I'll listen to you. Why would I listen to you? But hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use it as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
I'm Stanley Philippe.
And I'm John Butts.
Yeah, like the two of you haven't met John. That's fun. But yeah, we got two returning favorites to talk about this album that has been dominating the charts, dominating pop culture, a behemoth of just like excellence right here. And we got two guests to like meet the occasion. No pressure on y'all, but like you might know she's a writer on shows like Swagger and The Shy. It's Racquel Callahan, everybody.
Yay!
And Christina, she's in Europe. Christina Carty also.
Wee. Oh.
No, dude, she's just one of the greats, like one of the great guests of the show. Always such a pleasure. Like she on our Chromacopia episode, Mr. Morale episode, and yeah, like our what's it called? Mr. Morale episode is one of our best episodes, in my opinion. So like, it's just like, we love having you. We love talking with you whenever we can. And we know it's like, challenging because you live so far away, but we love making time. We always want to make time for you. So yay. Hi, Christina.
Hi.
Xtina is here, is okay. And
Yeah,
here, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. Like, we have a lot to talk about. So let's talk about our relationship to Kendrick very briefly. Like, what is your relationship to the artist Kendrick Lamar?
I mean, I think at this point we all have a massive relationship. But I mean, we talked about this on numerous episodes, but he's just someone that, every so often there's an artist that comes along that allows us to all say, yes, like that's the one. And that's been the relationship with Kendrick. It's like knowing that that's been the one artist that's able to really push the art forward.
Yeah, and you know that the people who say no are on the wrong side.
100%
on the loser side, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, they are the chiefs of this year. Just not even
subjective.
Close. Yeah,
objective truth.
It is an objective truth, 100%.
Yeah, I think like my relationship with Kendrick definitely started with Damn. So I'm a little late to the game. That was the first time I really listened to an album all the way through. I think I was like, oh, rap is cool. And then Mr. Morale, of course, that was because of this podcast, was probably like why I was able to start to really understand Kendrick as an artist. Now I have to say, I think this episode will be interesting. I'm ready to do a lot of listening and learning because I'm starting to get a little frustrated with Kendrick Lamar as a concept, like as concept of Kendrick. And so I'm real excited to get my ass beat on that opinion.
Christina off.
Canceled.
I love the framing of Kendrick as a concept because there's a lot to unpack there. And I think with his catastrophic fame recently, it's just, I can't wait to get into that. But similar to you guys, huge fan of Kendrick. I think I listened to Section 80 a bit, but I really got on board with Good Kid, Mad City. And I mean, fun fact, I literally decided to pursue screenwriting because of To Pimp a Butterfly. I listened to that and I say, I'm out of here. I'm done with advertising. I need to go write because his storytelling was phenomenal. So I'm a stan. I love this man. Though I think I'm getting a little precious with him because I'm like, oh no,
Mm.
he's out there for everybody, you know? And so yeah, we can talk about that too.
But yeah, I've been rocking with the TD camp for a long time, and found Kendrick after Schoolboy, but not too long after Schoolboy. Hopped on around Overly Dedicated, and then his
After
mainstream.
Schoolboy Q.
Well, no, not chronologically. Yeah, that's a
Oh,
little bit before, but that's the project that I latched on to, even though he was about to release Good Kid, Mad City. So I started with Overly Dedicated, and then, kind of got on the mainstream wave, so to speak, but also cherished Section 80 and the subsequent releases. And yeah, Kendrick Lamar as a concept, I'm really excited to go there because I think as a concept prior to this moment, um, there was maybe a little less holes to poke. And I'm not saying that there are a lot, but I think when you utilize him in a certain way, then maybe we can go there. But I'll keep it brief. But no, big Kendrick fan, Stan, all of the above. Yeah.
yeah. Like I want to like kind of get into that. I think it's because of the meteoric rise and like this like new echelon after post beef. Like he's representing more than like when he was a big star and people loved Kendrick, but like he's like now he's like, representative like DEI, representative of like this whole like a thing bigger than himself, which like he seems like he's up for the task right now. He seems like he's like, okay, I'm ready. Let me try to like represent something bigger than myself. Let me try to like move with integrity as I like am offered this huge platform. But I guess to go back, yeah, Christina, let's talk about like you brought up a really interesting wrinkle that I didn't think we were gonna have, like, um, like a bad seam, like a bad dry cleaner. Like there's a wrinkle I didn't expect. Like, let's talk about Kendrick as a concept. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think like I think all of you have kind of mentioned this. There's the big for me, there's post Drake beef and pre Drake beef Kendrick. He was already huge, he was already big, he was already talented. This isn't a question of his talent as an artist, just to be clear. Because I also think he's one of the greatest rappers of our time. Um, but I think the post Drakeification of Kendrick has turned him into a bit of a caricature of what rap music is. Even like I love the way that you said he defeated Drake. There's this weird good and evil thing happening, right? You call Drake out on being a, and then he's performing at the Super Bowl, hosted by one of the most corrupt organizations in the country, right? Like to me, there's, and I also love what John said too about poking holes because that's only possible. I can only be critical of Kendrick as a concept because he's been inflated, right? And it feels harder for me now to find him, the artist, in the same way that was so apparent in Mr. Morale because it was just him, the person, right? It was just him, the artist. Now it feels like Kendrick, the god, Kendrick, the Drake Slayer, Kendrick at the Super Bowl, Kendrick, like, and that I think is starting to I'm losing that the part of Kendrick that I really liked, not because he's gone, just because he's getting shrouded by this like idolatry that's happening. And that's really frustrating me. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about like his choice to perform at the Super Bowl. I have a lot of thoughts about the dancer who held out a Palestinian flag during his performance and
Mhm.
the notorious silence of Kendrick on that. I have a lot of thoughts about those things, but I think they're all contextualized in this like this post Drake kind of like inflation of
Mhm.
Kendrick the artist rather than just Kendrick the person. I don't know if that made a lot of sense.
No, that makes a lot of
Oh,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, what are your all thoughts on that?
I get it. I totally get why you could go there. Um, I immediately think of the grandiose stage that the Super Bowl is. And despite it being a corrupt organization, which, if anybody who does just a sliver of due diligence can find all of that, um, we it is, to me, it feels like a pivotal time to send the message that he sent during the Super Bowl. And I haven't fully formed this thought, but what Kendrick means to us, versus what they could put on to Kendrick is completely separate. So that's where maybe I'm trying to put the band-aid over the holes a little bit, or like stick a figure in, because I do think that it is valid to criticize somebody who supposedly stands for something and then uses that platform that could be just as criticized as the them of the whole sort of story. Yeah, I mean, I think we criticize Jay-Z a little bit too, just for his involvement in the arena in which he plays in, post billionaire status. Yeah, I'm with you to some degree, Christina. I hear you.
Okay, can I just jump in real quick? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I'm so excited right now. So I think that Kendrick as a concept, I think we need to define what we mean by that. Do we mean are we conceptualizing Kendrick and his art form, or are we conceptualizing Kendrick as the hero of the culture? 'Cause I think there are two different things. I think within the art form, he's doing exactly what we want people to do, which is like do music or do art, perform it at a level that is intimate, continue to grow and blossom, inspire others, reach the highest pinnacle, and still be authentic to your true self, right? Like he's on the Super Bowl stage and he's still being Kenny from Compton, right? Like he's still that guy. So I think that has no flaws. I think it's a perfect execution of authenticity within an art form that has been commodified. But if we're talking about the culture, I remember I had this conversation with a friend of mine a few years ago about the Grammys and the Oscar. I think it was around Oscar So White, and how we're like, oh, we need to reward more, black entertainers, black movie makers, musicians, and so on, by giving them more Grammys and Oscars. And I always said, like, the way you actually do things properly is by turning the BET Awards into the Oscars, where all of the most popular, greatest, quote unquote, white performers or successful performers go to the BET Awards and see that at the same level as a Grammy. Because if you still say the Grammy is the pinnacle, you're still playing the white supremacist, capitalist game. The game that Uncle Sam was talking about in the performance, which I'm sure we'll dive into. So, so going to the Super Bowl and saying, yes, hip hop has made it, and us then celebrating that moment, I think that's where you can like really poke some holes into that, because all you're doing is doing a Jay-Z thing, which, respect to Hove, he is the God MC, but he did sell out, right? He said, I'm gonna use my leverage to create a transactional relationship. Whereas Kendrick was like, well, I'm gonna use this access point to showcase my authentic relationships. So I think there's something different there.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. I
Oh, thank
think
you.
it's also tough to really take down someone like Drake and then not be put into the space of mainstream and pop consumption. It's like by default now you're in these conversations where Drake was and you're not even that artist. And so that's like, oh, that's not even really his lane. And now all these people are exposed to him. But to the point of the Super Bowl, it's a little annoying with Jay-Z bringing in all these acts because it's like sensational. In the moment, we're like, oh my God, hell yeah, Black History Month, amazing. But they're still taking away all these things. Like DEI is the worst thing ever to happen to this country, apparently. And it's kind of like a mask, right? But at the same time, I think that Kendrick did a good job of saying, fuck your expectations. Similar to what GNX did for him to be on this world stage and for him to not do his popular songs was like, that's a choice that I can jive with, even if it's the most basic of, protests. I really appreciated that he did it for him and like the culture in California and not like what the Super Bowl masses were expecting. But yeah, it's complicated. It sucks that he even has to be, and then also the not like us of it all, like that. The song, like amazing, but I hate that he's become just known for that. I'm like, you guys, and
Yeah.
everyone's waiting at the edge of their seat. Like, is he gonna say it? He's gonna like, oh my, now we're only focused on this. Like, this is a circus, and he's so much more than that. I do hate that, but he honestly fed into that too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's like I don't have much to add to this conversation except what FD Signifier said and wrote about this is just like um there's like he was actually happy that he didn't go further in the Super Bowl stage. It was just like that. He did the 40 acres and the mule reference. He said the revolution shall not be televised. You picked the right time by the wrong guy. Like he said all these, he touched on it, but didn't like he go further than just like I'm gonna play this song. I'm gonna play this song. It's gonna represent this. It's gonna represent that. But like, not like saying "fuck you, Trump" or like "free Palestine" like on the stage. Um, like FD Signifier was happy he didn't do that, and he's like FD Signifier is like one of the great like leftist speakers, like YouTubers and stuff like that. Like great like. There's this concept of jester's privilege. There's a concept of um, you could have The Boys be on Amazon. You could have the Barbie movie talk about patriarchy, talk about feminism, but it's sponsored by Mattel because that weakens the actual argument, So like if Kendrick went on the national stage and went super super far into like leftist. First of all, I don't think he's that even. I don't think that's who he is. I think he's just like probably he might be closer to Jay-Z than we might think of him. Um, but if he went further, if he did the Beyonce Black Panther uniform and, did all that, then it just becomes like content and soup. And he said the revolution will not be televised. So you picked the wrong guy of like, hey, don't look, don't this is and turn the TV off. Like it's gonna happen after this. Like right now, let's just luxuriate in this victory. Right now, let's like I don't know. That's a thought. I don't know. I don't even know. But what do y'all think?
I feel you, but I also feel like it is he packaged it the way that he did, and like the not like us of it all is a way to kind of acknowledge that black culture has been resilient, and like y'all have done everything to us and we're still here. Like, and that's why I'm going to play my GNX songs, because this doesn't have anything to do with anybody but us. And I think that to be able to platform that is it's so black and so inherent to what we do, but it also just by being we're protesting. You know what I mean? So just had to add that little nugget in there.
I think that's why the idea of the man versus the culture, because I think as a man, as a black man, I think Kendrick did exactly what you said, John. Like it's like, by him declaring that I'm the wrong guy, it's like I'm not the guy that's gonna play nice to the Super Bowl. I'm the guy that's gonna go up there and really say what I want to say. But I think like Andrew, with your point of, hey, I'm glad he didn't go too left. It feels like from the outside, and we're kind of feeling it a lot in Canada as well, but from the outside, like America has gone to the point where it's like if you talk about, hip hop culture or black culture, you know, how can you align it with anything that's being done by the right, the MAGA movement, by Donald Trump and his priorities? And if you're not going to align it with Donald Trump, then do you not have to then make a stand at that moment? If you are saying this is for the culture, if you are declaring that 40 acres of the mule has still not been paid, do you not have to then take that moment on the biggest stage when all of your ops, your new Drakes are looking at you and are thinking like you're gonna play along nicely? Do you not take that shot? And is this not the biggest problem that the left has, is that they're not able to take that shot? They never shoot their ops. And so they just kind of say, "Oh no, we're better than you. We're not going to do
You
that, but we're
broke the
still here.
law.
Yeah, you're a bad person. Oh, Luigi, how could you do that?" Like all of these things. But then when it comes to actually like doing the not like us, no one does it. So I think that's where Christina, and I mean, I don't know, I'm just kind of assuming here, but is that where you're trying to allude to?
Yeah, it is. I'm thinking a lot of No Name. I think a lot of No Name, who is, I think, the only rapper who I think is actually practicing a kind of radical, like, revolution of culture. And she got canceled for it. She got canceled. People shit on No Name. And I think the issue that I'm having with Kendrick is that, all of Mr. Morale he was talking about, I'm not your savior, I'm not your savior, I'm not your savior. And now he's saying, I'm God sent me on this earth and reincarnated, to like to save y'all.
Hmm.
And my issue is, okay, you're gonna take that position, but are you really ready to go there? Because true revolution is not just hashtag Black Lives Matter. Like No Name, for example, I can't remember exactly what it is, but she has some kind of setup where she's not getting paid more than like 20% than anyone in her team. I know that's not true for Kendrick, He's still he's a woke billionaire or whatever. And so I think that said though, like when you're gonna perform at the Super Bowl, you're accepting that you can't please everyone. You're accepting that if Kendrick were to say free Palestine, it would end his career. Maybe not, but the ramifications of it, I think, is not what he wants. And so I'm kind of struggling with this, like he's not my savior, but he is now being held up as a savior, whether he wants to or not anymore. That's what it's kind of turning into. Is he's the Drake Slayer. Oh my God, the Super Bowl performance. He made so many points. Did he really? Like, did he really make some crazy radical statement? I'm not convinced. And I love what everyone is saying because I'm understanding more why like that wasn't the time or the place, but it's still just something I'm grappling with. Who is Kendrick representing in our culture right now?
Yeah, and I think like that's the problem of like sort of like consumerism, capitalism is like I think what he's doing is he's representing himself. He's representing what he thinks. He hates Drake. No one made him do that, Like, truly, like he just came out of nowhere of like that, He could have just like sat on it and go like, I'm not your savior, so I'm just not gonna bother, whatever. I'm gonna take care of my kids. But like he did that, and then like we propped him up as that. And the consumerism works where it's not like there has to be a guy on the top and there has to be like homeless people. There has to be unhoused people. It doesn't work where we all like we all like rise to the equal level. Otherwise, the whole thing would kind of dissemble in something Um, so yeah, I don't know. Like, so like, and then the ideal versus the human we talked about, ironically in the Hamilton episode, but like the idea of like he's representing himself and he is trying to represent ideals of like working on yourself, of black culture, of like all this stuff, and then him as a human being falls short, including Kodak Black on Mr. Morale, having Dr. Dre on the stage doing the Not Like Us song, which is like, he has a weird case too, and all this blah 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 blah, like playing for the Super Bowl, all that stuff. And um yeah, I think it's also just a condition of our uh culture. And it's like, you know, I think we're all trying to grapple with like, we all applaud a no name. We want people to be more like that, to actually put their money where their mouth is and to actually like, like build mutual aids and all this stuff. And like, but like me as just like an American who's just like living his life day by day. I don't think about it every single day, like it's really hard. And I think it's just like a matter of like I think a lot of people are just like, how can you make the most impact within the system? But it's also unfortunately like the only way to like do that is to maybe change the system or destroy the system, whatever. I don't know.
Hmm.
So
Or it
It's a flaw.
ultimately gets gobbled up by the system, you know. It's like
gobbled up.
uh,
go ahead, Stanley. That's all I had to say.
No, but I was just gonna kind of disagree with Andrew on 2 points. One, I don't think that Kendrick hates Drake. I think to steal Christina's, thought process, I think he hates the concept of a Drake being, heralded as like the GOAT within rap culture or hip hop culture. And I think that he's been baiting Drake as well. Like that control verse, like, I mean, it was him being like, listen, I'm a rap not phenomenon. I'm a rap purist, and I want to battle. Like I want to get in the ring and let's like tap gloves and just see what happens, and then you hug it out at the end, like an MMA match or something. Like, but within those like 12 rounds, like it's serious. And when he like tapped those gloves on the control verse, no, Drake didn't tap back then. So I think Kendrick's been waiting. Like he's been waiting for Drake to come up and say, okay, I'm gonna do another sneak this, and then he can like pounce. And he pounced it with Euphoria. Like a guy who does Euphoria doesn't hate the guy, but also is like, I've been waiting for this thing, you know?
The friendly
Um,
fade. We should keep it that way. He
yes,
said it.
yes.
But it's also
He did
like
say, yeah.
in this song in Whacked Out Murals, he says, if the money got in the hands of the wrong person, they could have like killed me. And it's like,
Trash
oh,
dummies.
so Drake doesn't understand at all the rules of what I'm trying to do. Like that is very harmless. It's a very harmless, just like, hey, you two said you're the best. Oh yeah, look at me. And then it escalated, and then he at the end in the the fucking Meet the Graham song, he's like, you should have kept it the way. It's like just kind of like it's yeah, that was the idea there.
Yeah, but again, I don't think that Drake did anything that Kendrick didn't do, right? I think like they both kept it rap, but they both are in a climate where in 2025, everyone that has a keyboard thinks that they're actually like living the life that they're seeing portrayed on these, on these records, and so they feel like okay, we could then take it further because that song is talking about ops and pulling up and whatever. When it's actually not the life that 99% of us, I'll put myself in that. Like I don't live that life, like I'm wearing a little Maple Leafs backwards hat, like I'm a nerd. Like when I listen to these raps, I'm like, oh shit, like boom bop, boom, 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 bop, bam. Like that's me. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand. Like I don't really understand.
That's a grocery trip you wouldn't understand.
but so I think that we shouldn't, looking back now, it felt like, oh my God, like Kendrick told Drake, like, don't take it too far. But obviously, Kendrick was willing and wanting to take it too far. He wanted this, right? Because if Drake doesn't take it too far, we don't get Meet the Grams and Not Like Us. And then what? Then who's at the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
But I think like it became, I agree with you, Stanley, but I also think it became so much more for me with like the accusations, which to me that became really good versus evil. And that's where I hesitate, not because Drake is a pedophile, and that's disgusting, obviously, but because of like now we're creating this, we're putting Kendrick on a pedestal that I don't think really exists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, Drake is a piece of shit, but who's to say, like I think Stanley said this, who's to say that Kendrick hasn't done awful, awful shit? And that's why, to clarify again, when I say the concept of Kendrick, I mean what we create him to be, not who Kendrick is, because
Yeah.
I love who Kendrick is. I love like all of his work. I really respect his work. But what we're expecting him to be now as a result is where I'm getting really
Yeah, this
frustrated.
can turn out really bad. Like this could, if
Yeah.
this goes the wrong way, this could be really bad for. And then
Yeah.
just like, how many times have we put an artist on a pedestal and then they disappoint us by just like going the wrong way, or just like giving them more and more money and success, and then they just like, how could you represent the good that we want the person to represent?
And I
Uh,
think Kendrick right now is at a huge crossroads this is what I imagine. I'm acting like I know the guy. He's probably fine. But from like, if I had to speculate, he's going from the Mr. Morale, I'm not your savior, I'm not your savior. Well, now he's realizing why that isn't so easy. You can't just say, I'm not your, like, a savior. This is like giving like Dune vibes, but like it isn't, you don't choose to be the culture savior. They kind of choose you. We've kind of chosen Kendrick, and as much as he wants to be like, I'm gonna protect my peace, I'm just a man, I'm not your savior, it's not really up to him anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and the
Oof.
culture needs to learn from, I mean, from past mistakes, right? It's like we like you said, Andrew, like we glorify these artists who are able to shine in a particular moment and say, "Aha, like that's our savior." So again, I think the concept of Kendrick needs to be almost reframed as the the fallacy of culture saviors. We know about culture vultures, but culture
Mm.
saviors, and it's like, how
Mm.
do we define? Again, what culture, what are we talking about when we talk about culture? Do we talk about like, are we saying specifically black culture? Or are we talking about specifically like hip hop culture?
Non-PDFs versus PDFs, sex
Yeah,
offenders.
yeah, and we're gonna talk about that. Like, are we sure again, like that Drake is what Kendrick claims he is? Like, that's a huge
I know.
accusation. And I
We're all
remember, yeah, and I remember like Andrew, when this happened, like when the battle was happening, we were like saying like this is getting to a spot now where they're accusing Drake about they're accusing Kendrick of, spousal abuse. Like it was getting to a point where we thought like this is actually like troubling on both sides, and no one's been able to, give any receipts on any of this stuff. And yet, because it's a catchy line, we all kind of go, "Oh yeah, A minor." But if we're actually being about the culture, like anytime that someone who is of us is being framed a particular way without the evidence, that's detrimental to the culture. And
But
so,
is Drake of the culture? I think that's also
yes,
part of the premise.
yes, he is. He is the culture. Drake is the culture that is hip hop. That
Is he a
is,
culture or is he a product
Mm.
for the culture?
he is
Yeah.
the culture. Drake is the
I
culture.
don't know if he's the culture. I think he's a part of it. But I
Yeah.
guess it also, this is like art. It's subjective. We all have our own interprets. Like, what is the culture? I'm sure we all have different answers.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
And I will not take away Drake's contributions to the genre of music, but I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's a human being too. Like it's like the hard thing of like the thing we're trying to like wrestle with is like what do we do with like people who we disagree with, who are against us in a way? Like how do we approach them? Do we just like send like kick them off Twitter and then like go like you could join a new platform where all the worst people hang out together? Is that the answer to that? Or do we, well, there's no way we could like talk to them. Like there's no way we could like have a conversation because like we're empowering, a negative thing. I don't know. It's I guess let's just talk about this then. Let's talk about GNX, the
I mean, can I
album.
can I just
Yeah,
one
yeah.
because I just want like because last night I watched a Complete Unknown, like the Bob Dylan,
Wow.
which was very good, very good. Shout out to
Ah,
Timothy.
Amy Sally.
Shalamar.
Mr.
Yeah,
Dune.
yes, Paul himself. Yeah, so and it made me think about this whole thing because Bob Dylan is both Drake and Kendrick. He's Kendrick at the Super Bowl where everyone was like, Bob, like we're going to the Norfolk, the North, not Norfolk. I forgot the city, but the
The
folk
North
festival.
Pole?
No, the whatever folk festival that was happening, Northview or something. But anyways, this folk festival where it's like, hey, you're celebrating folk music, folk culture. You came a few years ago when you were a folk artist, and now you're showing up with your electric guitar and you're going against the culture, and we're all mad at you. And he's just like, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And then similarly, here's this guy who came out of nowhere and he wrote these songs that spoke to the culture, and we all said, "Oh my God, this kid's really good. Let's give him a shot." And then he blew up and was so almost like annoyed that the culture was now saying you gotta be like this way, and then he's now saying I'm gonna do whatever I want. And Drake, while he has morphed into an artist that's different than his humble beginnings, he also has said fuck you to the Grammys. And everybody, all the greats, Jay-Z, Ye, Tyler, Kendrick, they all said, fuck the Grammys, fuck the Oprah 8 shit. And then who's at the Grammys celebrating Beyonce, Jay-Z? They're
Yep.
all talking about white supremacy. Who gets 5 awards? Kendrick. You know who's not submitting shit to the Grammys? Drake is, because Drake is for his culture. Now, it may not be the culture, but he's saying, like, hey, you guys are saying fuck me. No, it's fuck you. And what's more hip hop than saying fuck off to someone? So I know the narrative as a sport, like Drake lost, but as a culture, I think we have to be very careful with how we toss aside, because Anakin Skywalker was a good person, and then we tossed him aside because we didn't let him see his Padme, and then he became who? Darth Vader. And we
Yeah.
don't want Darth Vader from Toronto, Ontario, Canada to come and slay you motherfuckers. Be careful what you wish
Yeah.
for. The 51st state is not for sale.
Well, let's talk about GNX then. I want to like pivot to the music itself. Because yeah, I'm really happy with what I came up with here. Like, and this like also like plays into Christina's questions and like about like, man, I missed the Mr. Morale Kendrick. It was about himself. It's about like all this stuff. Where I wrote that this is a sequel to Mr. Morale, T-Pab, Damn, and The Beef. Not as much Good Kid. I don't really, maybe someone who knows the album more intimately. I don't know that album as well as I should. But like those, they're clear sequels to all these albums. Like, obviously it's a continuation of The Beef and capitalize on the moment. Like Kendrick is all about presence. He's all about now. He said in the interview, he doesn't like to look back on his previous works. That's why, and it's also partly why the T-Pab and Good Kid, Mad City songs aren't on the Super Bowl performance, even though, because he did it. He already did it. He doesn't have to do it again. Um, so it's capitalizing on the moment, like, people saying, "How could you say that Kendrick's the GOAT if he didn't have an album this year?" Like, and then he had an album this year, and it was so good that it was released in December, and then people had to reevaluate their best of list. People had to like think, okay, where does this go? Is it better than Chromacopia? Is it better than all this stuff? Is it better than Brat? Is it better than the whatever? So there's that. Then there's also, I would say it's a sequel to Mr. Morale and T-Pab, where Eckhart Tolle, he's back. Like this idea of, so the two ideas in T-Pab, it's loving you is complicated. I love myself. And then Eckhart Tolle, his whole thing, like what started his spiritual journey is he was on the brink of like wanting to, die. And he's like, I can't live with myself anymore. And it's like, he realized, wait, who is I and who is myself? Why are they different? And what he came to is it's the perception of yourself and your present self. And meaning like the present self and the ego, where like the ego is based on memory, it's based on trauma, it's based on your accomplishments, and it's based on like what other people tell you. And that's where Kanye and Drake reside right now, is they are so fused with their ego that it's almost like they're possessed by the devil. It's almost like they need a fuck, they need a kill, they need a like murder and pillage. They're just so like they don't even know what they're doing anymore. And like so like that whole album is about like it's also why Kendrick made an example of Drake and humiliated him like over and over and over. Um, and then so the two ideas of T-Pab, I love myself, that's not the antidote to loving you is complicated. That's actually fuels the egoic cycle because it's about your ego. I love myself. Loving you is complicated. And so I think this is like he made T-Pab 10 years ago, and then 5 years ago he was working on Mr. Morale. And then it's all about it's kind of like updating these mantras where I love myself turns into I deserve it all, where presence and ego are fused, but presence is forward. Presence is prioritized over ego. Ego is there, ego can exist, your memory can exist, your pride can exist, your accomplishments can exist in a timeline, but it's fused into one. And then loving you becomes less complicated. Loving yourself becomes less complicated. Like it goes from in like the you song to I can't do it. I can't like do it justice, but like his little scream in the song. And then like also it goes from that to it go in, out, do it real slow. Like it's just like dance with yourself. It's this. You can interpret that song about Whitney. It could also be about his pen. It could also be about himself, where it's just like this harmonious presence, that's so beautiful and wonderful. And then like now that I'm present, I can sit in the garden in peace and enjoy the fruits of my labor. I can love my family, I can love my friends, I can love my community better. Then also fuck you. Also like loving you becomes less complicated because I can say fuck you to the right people. I can say fuck you to like you're pandering, you're not choosing a side. I'll do it for you. Like fuck you. You're over there, I'm over here. They're not like us. And then it's a sequel to Damn of like cousin Carl posits that Black Americans, Hispanics, and Indigenous people are Israelites of America, which Fantano did not like. But like, and then because of their disobedience to God, they were put into slavery and suffering, which is a very controversial stance. I think it puts too much emphasis on personal responsibility, but whatever. So this is an updated version of that. This is an update of that, where it's like he's putting the Eckhart Tolle's teachings and putting a spiritual spin on it, where he's framing it through the lens of Isaiah, where the devil gets kicked out of heaven and then he gets reincarnated in black musicians over and over until the devil decides to submit to Christ and lives a pure life the same way Jesus lived a pure life. And unfortunately, it like kind of it's a good update because there's still personal responsibility of like the vessel still made choices to be possessed, but also it's like this it's more hopeful than the message in Damn, where like we're fucked, we're damned. And then like this is like it's rehabilitation, not psychosis, of like you have so many chances to get it right. If you die, then you're reincarnated, you could try again. And then it's also like it doesn't ask you to be perfect, it doesn't ask you to be a savior, it just asks you to like have a relationship with God, um develop presence, don't let the past define you. Maybe you could break free of this prison. And yeah, that's just a few thoughts. So yeah. Yap yap yap.
I love the connections between the albums and the self, the ego, the introspective, the presence versus not. I mean, yeah. When I first heard this, I was just I thought this was just fake. I was like, this is not a whole album. Like he dropped it out of nowhere. But I just was thinking, is anyone outside of California going to jive with this? Because sonically, it sounded just so, and all the features. I mean, I love the woman singing through between the songs. But I was so curious how everyone else would receive it and would they be turned off and even get into the lyrics and everything because of how California it sounded.
Yep, we got our answer at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And also like the fact that he's like, I think that's how you be truly beloved, is like you be yourself and you represent where you come from. You don't try to be something else that you're not. And you express it authentically, people will come around to it. There will be people who hate it. There will be people who will not want it at all. But the people who are in it love it. And then the people who are outside of it who want to understand will come around to it.
Yeah. And I remember thinking too, after Not Like Us's success, like, what's his next album going to be? A bunch of bops, like all produced by Mustard. And it wasn't necessarily that, because everything didn't have that, commercial kind of vibe to it. But it definitely was a choice for him with the spotlight on him, for him to release this kind of album. And I respected that. even if I was just like, whoa, this is okay. I like that he is 10 toes down essentially. Like I have all the eyeballs on me, and this is how I'm going to move, and this is me, and you can like it or
All eyeballs on me.
yeah, yeah, I do love that.
And the features are all like LA artists, right?
Yeah,
Local,
deep
yeah.
LA,
That's
like
cool as
some of these
hell.
people I'd never heard of. I was like, okay,
That's cool as
love that.
hell.
Yeah, it's like
I
you
love
kind of
that
have
not like
to.
sorry.
No, go ahead, Christina.
I was gonna say I also love that Not Like Us is not on the album. That was
Yeah,
something I was
yeah.
really hoping to see,
Same.
and I'm glad I saw it. Sorry,
That's
John.
a great choice. No, I just think that we think about the landscape of music and the mainstream of hip hop. I think it's been dominated by like a more southern Atlanta based sound, and we think about regions having their own sound. Sinley's brought up how Toronto has that. Drake kind of ushered in, and The Weeknd ushered in that cold and ominous. And the East Coast is known for a little bit more grit. You think of Griselda and all those guys, and you go back to the '90s, and you think of the South as a lot of flashiness, or whether it's Atlanta or New Orleans. And LA has always had a sound, but it just hasn't felt fresh, or it hasn't been put in front of our faces in a way that we acknowledged and recognized as something that we enjoyed, just based on how dominant other sounds have been. So what GNX does is kind of refreshes us for what that West Coast sound is. And I don't know, it leaves you salivating for it in a way. It's like, oh yeah, this I love this more. Dodger blue seeping into my veins, and one of the things that I think was also pretty prevalent in the conversation before GNX was released was the idea that Kendrick couldn't make a regionally sounding album. Like he could never just do straight bangers based on some West Coastness, So I think it's just a supreme display of combating that narrative, an extreme display of supporting the West Coast and its culture. And yeah, there's so many positives to say about this. Another thing that I really hold dear about GNX is how he crafted this, and there just feels like zero filler. Like he says, fuck a double entendre. I want y'all to feel this shit. And like he doesn't like waste any words. It's all economy of language. I like try to find pieces that just feel like, oh, that could have been left out, or that didn't land as much. But no, it's like from line to line, feature to feature, no moment was wasted. And no, I just really appreciate that about GNX.
Like, wah, hi.
But also needed. That's the comedy. Is like
Yeah.
what is the balance between like that gut punch versus like alleviation / the laughter, like just a good balance of all of those things. The God dang, what do you call it? Like the motif of that ka 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 ka, like on so many different songs. It's just he knows the moments. He selected all the moments properly. Selected the right features. Yeah.
Well, yeah, just like our friend Dakota, a friend of the show, Dakota West Foss, he wrote a review of GNX, really good and really good read. But like he said, this album's about anger as comedy and California as myth. Of just those two ideas are balanced. Like the fucking the whacked out mural song is like, oh, I'm angry, but it's like kind of silly at the same time, but it's real. And then the wah hi is just like the goofy bing bop boom 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 bop bam. It's just like the silliness of like, it's fun. Like Raquel's like prediction was is going to be mostly mustard bangers, and then my assessment of beef of like, oh, this is actually like really funny. Like this whole like in retrospect, the whole thing was very funny, and I think he's leaning into those two ideas.
Whacked out murals. He's definitely using that yeah, see, like, I got the Tommy gun. See, it's just like such a
Meh, meh.
yeah.
Gonna say that Whacked Out Mural sounds like he's literally in the GNX doing a drive-by. Like it's just like the song comes on, I'm like, okay, here we are. We're going straight there. And just a funny story. Literally, I'm racing from urgent care to come to the podcast. I pull up on the side of these guys and they're blasting Whacked Out Murals. And I'm like, oh my God, great song. I'm literally about to do this podcast about GNX. And then they start like throwing up West Side and like, yeah, it was a whole moment. And I was like, this is a sign where this is
In the
right on.
right place at the right
I'm a
time.
big
Oh,
Mark
Raquel.
Maron fan. Just like it's just
I
Yeah.
love it. I think what John said about the West Coast of it all, like I was thinking about innovation and how in music, when we think about innovation, we think about taking a foundational piece and then making it different, fresh, modern or something that we haven't heard before. And I think the problem with the West Coast of it all was, at least in hip hop, there was almost a signature sound that was so connected to West Coast that there was not a lot of room for innovation within that space. Like
Mm.
all the modern, awesome West Coast artists, like an Anderson .Paak or a Tyler or a Kendrick, they almost kind of like left that and were like, okay, well, I'm going to innovate in a different way, while still being West Coast, but leaving it. And so Kendrick on this, it's like he innovated by bringing it back to the root of the sound and allowing a wider audience to either fuck with it or not. And to be someone at that level, I think most artists, once they get that big, you don't tend to kind of go back because the go back is to kind of say everything I've done beforehand is no longer like valid. But it feels like Kendrick's kind of like I'm actually going back because that makes me valid, is being able to say I can go to No Compton, I can talk to the Crips and the Bloods, have these conversations while hearing this sound, having a GNX, pulling up, and you will all want to be part of this or not, but you're gonna see it. And I think that's the kind of the point.
Yeah.
yeah. Any other themes? Any other things we want to talk about before we get to the content of the album?
Andrew, do you have anything on like the GNX of it, or just like the? I feel like there's something there with the representation of the vehicle and the rarity, but
Yeah. It's well, it's like part of it's just like a new symbol for him, like kind of more like a physical touch mark of like where he is now instead of like where it was the van and Drake crushed the van, and then there are the murals, and then the murals got whacked out, and this so there's like just like an idea of like uh just like a visual like marker of where he is, and then just like the idea that it's like this is his coveted object that this is he this is the real thing he wanted. When in Whacked Out Murals he talked about like being pulled over for driving dirty and he couldn't talk back to the cops, but now it like represents this new level of freedom, this new level of like peace, just like a little like I see it as just like a little token for himself of just like, hey, like, hey, like my 100-day chip or something, or like, I worked out for 100 days in a row. I'm gonna buy some new sweatpants or something, just something like that, I think.
also kind of what you said with crushing the van is like the GNX appears. It's like almost no matter what you do to me, I'm gonna be here. Y'all can put me through the ringer and I'm gonna emerge unscathed and maybe even like a little bit more pristine.
It's also like obviously a very specific car in LA culture. Like if someone's driving that, it's like, okay, I'm not messing with you. Like it's a whole not a stigma, but it definitely has a reputation.
Is it like the Black Air Forces of like
Yes,
cars?
exactly, exactly. That is perfect. Yes.
Mm, yeah, let's go through some songs then. Let's talk about some highlight songs. Christina, do you have a highlight that you want to shout out from this album?
I have, I mean,
You
there
could
are
do you could rattle them off if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like vibes wise, I don't know why the one that stuck with me was Hey Now. I love that track. I think it's so, I don't know, something just like the whispering, you know? There's like this kind of like, I also think Doty Nine is an incredible rapper. I'm really glad that he got this moment. Um, yeah, I love Hey Now. It's like thematically maybe not the most emphatic, but I think that's also why I like it because it's just Kendrick doing his shit, you know, and then bringing on these like new faces and highlighting them. I just love the kind of fraternity of it too. You
Black No, I Just Strangled Me a Goat is like my favorite line off that song.
know. Mm, mm,
I
mm.
love the what the fuck you wearing, bro, is tacky. Like
What
it's
the
just
fuck you wearing,
what?
bro? Is here's a question like that could kind of like is he one of the best like not like pens but like voices in hip hop? Like is he because
Hmm.
like there's Jay-Z and then there's like what do you got Busta like but I think he's underrated just like his voice like just like it as a blanket thing like
I
Mm.
mean, that in itself, the voice, like this is a craft, right? Like recording, and the voice is an instrument. And one thing that I think he has been doing over the arc of his career is shifting the way that he uses it. Like you could go listen back to K Dot, and like that just sounds like a rapper. Like this
bitch I'm
guy's,
in the club.
but yeah, this it's I feel like one thing that happened in Mr. Morale was kind of leaving the sheen behind. And through doing that, it enabled him to like find this fun and playful version of himself on GNX. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that Kendrick is one of the best vocally.
Playing with his like baby cousin, just you know, like, just like freed him up a bit.
I wonder
That's
that's
such a
why. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Christina.
I was gonna commend John on that observation because you're so right that Mr. Morale is really much more straightforward vocally. And I think that comparison between like the rawness of Mr. Morale allowing him to be a little more goofy, I think that's really astute. I think that's a
Mm.
really cool observation.
Hmm. And I think that's why he like needed to leave TDE in some ways. I think his voice was being almost
Mm.
like not silenced, but he wasn't able to amplify the actor in him. You know, like I think TDE has such a boot camp approach, like we've been talking about with all these albums and how they really refine their artists to find their voice. He's kind of like I found it. I have like 20 versions of it, and I need to be able to explore them more. I also think like, and we'll get back to songs, but I also think that this is a mixtape. I do read this as a mixtape. I read this as like his quote unquote worst project since Section 80. Because I don't think this is anything more than a vehicle to a vehicle to push PG Lang and to hopefully get people excited about some of these artists that he's going to be, utilizing in his label. You know, he is a Gemini after all, and so there's a lot of things happening there, and I think the commodification of this moment is really important to him in order to keep that relevancy and then let all these wicked artists have their moment.
You're saying GNX is a vehicle?
Got an ab soul over here.
Uh, I wasn't, but I am now. Don't make me rap, Andrew.
Uh, Staying on Hey Now, just like a minor moment on the song that I like is the switch kind of in the beat and the flow around it's the Ben Frank murderer, Mr. I ain't heard of you. Just like the drums, and then you got those, I think there's like some strings that come in there, just the emphasis there. Just like such a sweet, sweet moment in that song. It just keeps you going, it keeps amping you up.
I saw a TikTok about that where it's like this person's listening to the song and then that moment like I'm way too important and it's just like they start traveling in space and I
Yes.
just like where the fuck am I?
Oh
It's like where's
yeah.
Kendrick taking us? Like starting to
Juicy
and you're
spacious
like
on
what
Rosecrans.
the fuck? What kind of trip is this? And you land like who the fuck you think? It's just
Mhm.
it's
Oh,
so cool
so
that way he
good.
does it.
And who's interpolating D4L in
Yeah,
2025? Bet you can't do
right.
it like me. Lean with it, rock with it. Nobody. Come
Honestly,
on.
honestly.
Okay, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, Hey Now sounds like 2005, 2006. LA and Bay Area. It's a very specific sound. Like when I was 18, driving around, just like hot boxing, finding the function. It literally is that. It takes me there every time I hear it. I get so excited inside. Little Raquel is like, oh my God, like it's a party. It's just so good. I love him so much for that because it's like you understand this and you put it into music form. It's amazing.
Mm.
Raquel, what's a highlight for you though?
Obviously that one is just the sound of it is amazing. I also love, I think Man at the Garden is his victory lap. It is the thesis of the album to me. It's like behind all of this, I'm 10 toes down in LA. I just murked this guy on the beef. I got these LA artists behind me, but really like this is who I am and why I deserve this moment. I work so hard for this. I have integrity. I care about my community. Like it reminds me a lot of One Mic by Nas, the quietness of it and the reflection on it. It also doesn't sound like as hyped up or aggressive as the others. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's just sit in this, sit back. I almost feel like it could have been no, I'll take that back. I think where it should be, it should be. But yeah, I just like that it takes you out of it to say, hey, this is what I'm about. And then I go back into like real California music.
Mhm.
And the fact that he pulled it off at the Super Bowl too, I was like, okay, the little bebop version, it's like the acapella.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a highlight. Um,
Really a highlight in that in the Super Bowl performance too, just like all the dudes smiling, like joyous, doo
yeah,
wop, gold teeth, hair swinging,
yeah, yeah,
just being you. Just
right.
such a great moment.
I really wondered with Man in the Garden, like how part of it almost felt ironic. Part of it almost felt like I don't even know how to verbalize the thought, but you know, almost like a temper tantrum almost, where he's worked so hard, he's done all this
Mhm.
work, and he's like, I deserve it all. I should have everything I want. I nothing bad should happen to me. Like in a way where you know that's not true. You know there's still work to do. You know you're not a perfect person. But it just felt so it felt like almost catharsis for him to be like, I've done all this fucking work. I've destroyed fucking Drake. I did an album that was basically an entire therapy session. Like I've unpacked myself. I've worked for the culture. I deserve it all. But do I want to believe that Kendrick knows at the end of the day, like, all right, back to work, like
And
there's still stuff to do.
because I think this song goes in connection with Reincarnated, where reincarnating, he's saying all that stuff again, but to God, and God's like, like
Mhm.
not yet.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you gotta, first of all, you gotta atone, you gotta repent, you gotta like, um, clean the gunk and bile from your heart so God can speak through you. And that ties in with Luther and Gloria of just like, um, Gloria is my highlight this time around. It changes a lot, but Gloria really got me this time. I like cried listening to that because, when I first heard it, I was like, oh, ha, cute. Like you made a little joke song. You made a song about your pen. We thought it was about Whitney, but it's actually about a pen. Ha, ha, ha. This way we all like, but it's like, it's not literally about its pen. It's about himself. It's about like your relationship to yourself. And then like, um you were there for you all the entire time. It's and then it's just like yeah, and then it's just like it's about the self, but then it's about, I feel like Gloria could be, that the rug pull of like it's about his pen, but that rug pull could be covering the fact that it's still about Whitney also. It's also someone else was there with me too, you know. And then Luther is the same thing of like you think it's about Whitney, but could be about his pen. It could be about himself. It could be about the harmonious dance you do with yourself when you're self-actualized, when you're clean, when you're just letting, and like when you write, it's about like letting God or a higher power like speak through you. It's not about like I have something so original and wonderful just by myself. It's about like communicating something bigger and something more wonderful. I love it.
Wow. Nice.
Can I go?
Yes.
Because I'm kind of off that. I'm on this Dodger Blue, baby. Oh man, y'all know everything about this song speaks to me. The what came of it, the sort of everyone latching onto it and kind of making it that cookout song, the sort of line dance song. This to me, this song will be that one of those timeless tracks from this where it'll never leave a summer playlist and we'll hear it every season. So that's an element that I love. But come on, don't fly in it, be 50 on me, don't die trying it. Like I don't even know where that sits in the voice first and foremost, but that's definitely on some Cali shit. And then the trade-off between the two artists just sounds so good. But then y'all know I love Nate Dogg, so to me this is like a an homage, or at least the chorus is a bit of an homage to him, and or at least that smoothness that he would have delivered on a track like this. And just like being so smooth but saying 50 on me, don't die trying. And like how are we dancing, are we shooting, like what is going on? And yeah, that juxtaposition is so fun. And also like 50 Cent did kind of start popping out and trying to subvert what Kendrick was doing in this moment. So it also felt like a little bit of a sub at 50. So I was like, yeah, like if 50 want to start rapping, get in the ring, man. But yeah, Dodger Blue. I mean, I've said it before. I don't know nothing about what it means to live in LA. Visited a few times, but this to me transmit the jovial, happy spirit, the community vibe, the family vibe. Yeah, this is top notch. No filler.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of this song Summertime in the LBC from like the 90s. And it's very like summer cookouts. You can just see it. And it's just a whole vibe. I also
Mm.
love the line about don't say you hate LA if you don't travel past the 10. Like below the 10 freeway is where all the black and brown people are, where
Exactly.
the
Y'all in Burbank.
real, yeah, yeah. It's like you're not up in WeHo in the valley, okay? Like don't. It's just again the shout out to the community and to his people. Um, I almost feel like Kendrick's in a gang with California because his loyalty is just like, I'm about you guys. I'm going to represent at all times. I'll never forget you. I'll never leave you hanging. Like he goes in.
I
I
love that
love
reference. That
And
summertime in the LBC, like that Dove Shack. That's
Yeah.
exactly it, right? Like that's a sound. And you know, when you watch like Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society, like all the fun, loving community moments, it's they all sound like Dodger Blue, you know. But then within that, there's also that the threat of I got 50 on me, like that threat is also part of the imagery that we on the outside get and we don't necessarily understand it, but we kind of see it. So we're like, oh man, that cookout looks so good. But at one point, Ricky can get shot in the leg. You know, like that could happen. You know, and that's the almost the psychology that we get when we're listening to this album. Yeah.
Also, I love the point of like he's in a gang with California because the thing we didn't talk about in the first section of the episode was like him putting the Crips and Bloods on the stage together, just and that so it's just like why it's not about the two of us fighting the red team and the blue team fighting each other. It's about like uniting them so they're more power like black people are more powerful together. And then the person who whacked out the mural is like okay, you could do that, but like it'd be better on our side, you know.
Mm. Raquel, can I ask you about that? Like the concept of unifying the two gangs and then what the gangs represent um now in 2025 because I was talking to a friend of mine about the Super Bowl performance and he's just like man like the fact that he had Serena Williams crip walking when a crip killed his her I think it was her sister
Yeah.
um and for her to display that dance. And I was kind of like, well, the Crip Walk is not necessarily directly connected to the Crips anymore. It's like from again for us who are not part of the culture, the West Coast culture, we see it as a dance that was done by like Snoop and Dre and all those guys, and now it's like continuing on. So we almost like TikTok it. But I just want to know what it's like in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the gang expert, but I will say that one with Serena, that is more like a crip hop, and it's kind of like a little boogie. Like there's a version where they're actually spelling out the gangs with their feet, and she wasn't doing that. Like that's the deep, the deeper version. But I do think that I mean, when I was growing up, it was very prevalent. I was getting banged on, people were getting killed all the time, left and right. It was really bad. I think now it's not as bad. And I mean, also the Pop Out, that show, like those were the Super Bowl had guys in red and blue. That stage literally had Crips and Bloods together dancing like harmoniously. So I think someone like Kendrick does a good job of bringing people together and letting them forget that for a moment. Even in the Not Like Us video, again, it's a lot of unity there. Um, I just think also the younger generation is gang bang differently, or it's just not the same. It's just there aren't people getting pressed about colors and you're over here in the wrong neighborhood as much as widespread. I'm sure it's going on a bit, but it was really bad in the early 2000s and the 90s. But he represents someone that could squash all of that, at least for a moment's notice for a performance or a music video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I saw the Super Bowl performance, rewatching it as the unification of the Bloods, Crips, and white supremacy, and
Mm,
and kind of saying like, hey, like we can unify together regionally, but also, together tackle and transform what this capitalist white supremacist system has created, and creating these neighborhoods that are intentionally disadvantaged. And so I kind of saw that like him trying to say to America, like, my first step, unite the Crips and the
yeah,
Bloods and make one LA, one West Coast. The next step is to make one United States of America, almost like that next kind of progression.
yeah, when he was like in the center of it with the
Hmm.
very
Yeah.
humble. So,
And there's
yeah.
something to be said about like when Joey Badass tried to like attack is trying to like start a West versus East Coast war, and I think I believe it's more in the spirit of competition. It's not like nothing personal at all. But we got all these LA artists like hopping out like defending Kendrick before Kendrick even responds, which I bet he's going to do. Um, but then no one from New York besides Joey Badass is like. So there's something to be said about like the power to mobilize someone. Which like the Super Bowl or like these opportunities do give you leverage in this society, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the whole thing with Drake. Kendrick has the power to mobilize. Like, he has all these people shouting A minor, people just hating Drake, don't know anything about either one of their catalogs, really. Just like, oh, Drake sucks. Like, the little kids singing along. Like, this is very powerful that we've all kind of just chose a side. And that there's been such a division. It's really interesting to watch from like a social experiment.
Yeah, and that is the beauty of sport. Like when the best of anything is part of your area, then you can then be like proud. Like when Jay-Z was the GOAT, and he's, in my opinion, still the greatest rapper of all time. Everyone from New York was like, the Black Album, that concert, everyone from New York was there. All the boroughs felt represented. There was a unification of the East Coast sound. Meanwhile, the West Coast was asleep. Like there wasn't anything happening. No, and no, respectfully, respectfully, they were asleep because they were past that era of the gangster rap and how much NWA and Drake and Snoop and Cube all ruled, hip hop. So there was like this passing of the torch that happened, and now Kendrick and Tyler, and these are the best ones out right now in rap on the grandest scale. So there could be a very pridefulness to the West Coast, and then on the East, like I don't know, like who's that artist that's meeting the moment for New York? Like there
And
is no one right now.
And Read My Soul, he's a YouTuber. I really enjoy it. We got talked about more songs in a second, but
Yeah, sorry.
the he said the reason it's not that there's not I think Joey Bass's like attack is like kind of ill advised is because white supremacy broke New York up, just like this, consumerism, capitalism, just like it's not the way it was. It's not culture.
Mm.
There isn't as vibrant a culture there anymore. It's all now. It's like in what's it called, Buffalo. Like there's like some like cool artists from there doing their thing, but like New York itself, it's not the same.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Anyway,
yeah.
TV off, so good. Particularly the second half. I mean, and he's such a genius because he literally made that song for the Super Bowl. Like
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like, and this is why I think this is a mixtape because it's so in the moment. And I know Mr. Morale was, somewhat in the moment, but it was like a lifelong therapy session we got to hear. But this is like so 2024 coded and like, yeah, I'm performing here. But in saying all that. The first time I listened to it, that was the moment where I was just like, "What the fuck is happening?" That like, I know we all had that moment, like, Master. I think I came on a podcast. It was like saying it for like 10 minutes or something, but it's just like, who does?
I was happy about that.
Yeah, I know you loved it. Who does that? And I think that this album, again, sorry, I call it a mixtape because there are two albums that are happening simultaneously. Like Whacked Out Murals for me, like stands as the intro for both albums. So then, Squabble Up, Hey Now, TV Off, Dodger Blue, Peekaboo, and
Mm.
GNX are all like one album, then everything else is the other. And I personally prefer the former. I prefer like the album with TV Off and Peekaboo because the other one is like, okay, you're teasing me a bit too much. Give me
Mhm.
the full product, the full project. Then let me actually dive deep into where you're at in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I just like just a really quick highlight, just the amount of quotables in this album, just like in such a condensed amount of time. Obviously Mustard, like Squabbled Up, just like all these like Bing Bop Boom Bop Bam, all these lines are just so quotable. Like he's also meeting the moment in terms of just like I think the time away, with the Mr. Morale also just like lightened his load in terms of just like comedy and stuff and like hanging out with Baby Keem and like doing top of the morning, like that bit. Um, yeah, I think it's like there's something to be said about like I also think that's part of why he won the beef is like all his quotables helped him and all of Drake's quotables helped Kendrick. Like drop helps Kendrick. Because he did it to himself. Oh fuck me, I just made the whole connection when he misread the album that he was like supposed to understand. And then like what's it called? Uh Day Free turned into A minor, all that stuff. It's just like it all hurts him. Like it just sucks.
Leave
So
Drake alone, y'all. Like leave. Also, and then the Drake of this album, like on Peekaboo, which is another really big highlight, like 80 points, like a Kobe game. That 80-point game was against the Toronto Raptors. Like fuck off. And then
Oh, amazing.
that Man of the Garden, I know it is one mic, but it also kind of it's giving successful by Drake on So Far Gone.
Wow.
It has a little of that like same
Oh
doom,
yeah.
Yeah,
and
love it.
so he's just
Love it.
like, again, he's such it's so good, and then I'm like, okay, you won, like leave him alone, leave Drake alone, please.
he's
How did you
petty.
feel about the hoodie with the bullet holes and the
Yeah.
smoke?
Okay, listen, I haven't been a Drake like fan in a hot minute, so but yeah, I mean Drake is acknowledging that he's taking that shots like because he has been, and
Mhm.
I actually feel kind of sad for Drake because especially with like Ross and Future, like these are people that he collaborated and really helped make money. Like he helped Ross a lot. And not to say Ross isn't like an amazing artist in his own right, but he helped all these people and they were all scheming the whole time, waiting for someone courageous enough to go against the sixth god and sustain it. Because like John said, like Pusha beat Drake, but Pusha stopped. Like Pusha was just like, I'm gonna do this that destroys them completely, and then I'm gonna focus on my own shit. Whereas Kendrick hasn't let up. I think he's done now, but he hasn't really let up. So to see everyone pile on and pile on, it must be really sad for him to say like, wow, like this industry, this culture that I gave so much to was hating on me the whole time. And it may really make him question like the questions of identity, and not to say like you should be able to say the N word just because you're black, but to tell someone like, hey, I don't feel good about you saying that word. And yes, Drake hasn't done anything really for black culture in terms of standing up and really speaking out on certain topics. At the end of the day, he's still a black man. So it's like it must be really like hard for him to then have to digest this and everyone questioning every part of his soul over and
Yeah.
over and over
Yeah,
again.
the best way that I saw that summarized was in a tweet. It was Drake performing at what looked like kind of like a loungy show in his Australian tour, and the caption just said "Tar 2022."
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Well, hold on. I think you use the restroom regularly, but like I would say like
Because that
um
pissed you off.
yeah. No, it's like also like, where does that leave Drake to go? In terms of like a human man, in terms of just like who do you confide in? Who do you like besides maybe your parents? And like he's admitted on his own albums, they kind of suck sometimes, like it's hard. It's just like who can you trust and like what other direction could you go except like right wing grifting? It sucks.
Hmm.
It's like on a human, like he could, I suppose. I would respect if he was like, yeah, I was a little inappropriate then. Damn, I really have some regrets. But he's gonna get roasted to shit if he does that. So it's just like you gotta just like double down on, nah, no one did anything to me, like
Ha.
so
Yeah,
okay, I'll
I
be right
don't, I
back.
don't,
Yeah. You could
I
keep
don't.
talking about it.
Okay, okay. I don't think it's as drastic as what Kendrick referenced. Like, I suggest some ayahuasca, strip the ego from the bottom. But I do think there's some sort of stepping out of yourself that Drake will have to do. And I don't think it's a sit down. It's not the Drake Cole Lil Pump interview. That's not what we're going to do here. But I think there's something that Drake needs to do to where it's like he admits his failures or admits where he misstepped or which would to me get him to that next step of his career. Like if you're going to try and keep recycling, then you're essentially doubling down on all of Kendrick's points. Even with this Party Next Door album, it's like we like Drake with the melodies. It's like you put out an album full of melodies, which yeah, in theory, this is the version of you that we should enjoy. But even that, it still feels like recycled material and underdeveloped and unsupported with any self realization or self actualization. Like, what happens when like the girls that you're messing with make you feel a certain way to where you analyze yourself and you're not calling them out? You know what I mean? Yeah, so I'm waiting for that for Drake. If he could ever get to that point, I think he could make something really captivating. And I know this is not a Drake episode, but that's just kind of
But it
where I'm
is,
sitting
right?
with that.
It is a bit, and it's like I think I referenced Drake and Taylor, shout out, as like the McDonald's of music. So it's like right now we're saying like, hey Drake, go and make me, some type of, amazing
Say
dish.
Drake. Make me an amazing dish.
But and it's like maybe Drake is just McDonald's, and he's recognizing that McDonald's is all over the world for a reason because it's like cocaine in a sandwich. Like it's just so addictive. So, and I love me some cocaine. No, I'm kidding. Um, but you know what I
You
mean?
and
Like
Fantano.
shout out. But like I don't know why I feel so defended because I'm in Ontario right now and like it's cold and whatever. But like uh he when all is said and done, we're gonna look back and say Drake's run was unmatched. And nothing Kendrick can say will remove that. So yeah.
So low lights to this album, like low lights to reservations, anything that's like kind of like on the lower end.
I'm gonna make a confession. I don't know how people feel about it, but the title track for me, it's
Like,
just a big,
wow.
yeah, it's just a lot. And obviously I love LA sound, but I'm just like, you know what? I could skip this.
Yeah.
I can
Mm-hmm.
always start it off and then I go.
I do like
100%.
the wah part. I think that's very funny, but like the rest of the song, I'm like, I don't need to hear this. Like my joke when this album came out is like, oh, that beat won the worst beat in the world contest. Just like
Yeah, and I appreciate him giving a space for these other rappers to go off, and it really feels playful and fun and like unserious and free in that way, creatively, but I don't really, yeah.
I'm about to build a shit. Get down
Yeah.
with the blast. No, I don't know. I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like everybody, the beat in itself is just like kind of swishing around. It feels like you're inside of like a 2 liter that is filled with 808s, and it is just like hit a two. Oh, here's the hitter, man. Wait, and like the fact that you can't find the pocket, but he's riding it. Like is I don't know. I understand it is a polarizing beat, polarizing song, but they finessed it.
It's a low like it is the most skippable song on any Kendrick project. Like that in
I
Swimming
agree.
Pools. It's so skippable and it's giving D12 vibes. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, D12 and like yes, like regionally, Proof, all these guys were really great regionally, but commercially on a grander scale, I'm sorry, none of these guys sniff
Wow.
are gonna sniff Baby Keem, let alone Kendrick. So I think
You gonna
it's
do
great
purple
that he
pills like that, Stidley? Gonna do purple pills?
yes, I am. I 100% am. I just don't think you can like even match this with anything on that you throw on a Dodger Blue and then GNX and you're like these are the same quality of songs. I'm sorry. We are so mistaken.
Mm. Uh, Christina Racquel, any low lights though?
I think maybe my hot take is
Yeah.
that this is probably my least favorite heart from him.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Okay, okay.
Not that it's a bad track. I just think it didn't grip me the way that his other
Mm.
the hearts have, which is what I'm usually expecting from the heart. So kind of some like just a little punch. And I was just like a little underwhelmed.
Mm. You got a big punch in terms of like punch the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. Let's go through straight observations. Anything that we haven't talked about that we want to talk about before we get to final thoughts and ratings?
So are we all like yay to the Super Bowl? We all like the actual performance?
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Christina, sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just would like I'm thinking back to I mean I did my whole shtick at the beginning. I won't go through it again. But I'm thinking of this video of like somebody's mom on Instagram like crying at this Super Bowl performance. It's like some white mom, and that's supposed to make it so much more impactful, whatever. But it's like this someone's white mom like crying and be like, he's doing so much. He really did he like come on. Like, oh
It's
my
like,
God,
oh
he had
really? What
Samuel
did
L.
he do?
Jackson. Sorry?
It's like, oh really? Then what did he do?
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us.
Like name three what he did. Like if you're such a big fan of Kendrick. Like, I don't know. I thought it was cool. I loved the aesthetic of it, but I don't think it was as impactful for the culture as like I don't think anybody's white mother should be crying at Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance.
We'll
Yeah,
see
it's
you at
kind of
the No
giving.
Name Book Club. That's
Yeah,
when maybe we can talk.
true.
It's kind of similar to, I mean, their reaction to it reminds me of like 2020 when they were reading all the books on how to be an anti-racist and oh now I need to research and do all this stuff. It's, oh gosh. I appreciate it for us, but on that stage, everyone can consume it, right? So then it gets a
Yeah,
little icky.
yeah,
But
exactly.
I like that he was not doing any of I love all the GNX songs that are in that
Mhm.
performance because it just is a real choice.
Yeah.
Mm.
But anyways, yeah, let's go to the final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we got 4 minutes till Christina has to go. So like I want to
Thanks. Appreciate the speed run.
yeah, let's go to the final thoughts and ratings. The way this works, we'll rate this out of 10 with fun metric at the end. Christina, where are you at with this?
Yeah, as usual, loved our discussion. I really agree with the mixtape vibe. I felt like he dropped this at the time when he's at the top. He had the Super Bowl deal, and unlike Mr. Morale, where he's changing the game, here he's like 10 toes down, coasting, you know, not making any revelations, but like cementing, I think, his status as just like a really great artist, a really great storyteller. Um, because of its mixtapey vibe, because of the lack of revolutionariness, obviously I'm really annoying with that. It's not a perfect 10 for me, but I would give this like a 9.3 big face Buddhas out of 10.
Hmm. Hmm. I think it's good. It's fun. It's just the West Coast sound is needed in hip hop. I think I'm gonna give this 8 um hey out of
You
10.
took it. You took it from me. I gotta think real quick.
I agree with the mixtape of it all, and I think we all probably have our Kendrick, even though there's a lot to mine from this. You think about, oh, okay, what is the through line? And cinematically, is it some kind of visual storytelling we're getting? And it didn't necessarily, it was kind of here, there, all this, and I'm still just cementing was a great way to put it, Christina. My sound and who I am as an artist. So for me, again, I'm always like big fan of anthropology Kendrick and like, oh, give me all the he does it on reincarnated, but yeah, I was just like, this is bops, this is great. LA Pride, love it. So for that reason, I'll give it 8 boogers on my chain.
Yeah. I think about this album in terms of just another jewel in Kendrick's like discography crown of you have a T-Pab. You don't need to make T-Pab again. You know, you did Mr. Morale. You don't need to do that again. Even though my instinct is go, I want more Mr. Morale. I like that, Kendrick. Do that again. Um, where it's just like, and that's Justin Hunt's point about Tupac and like he was thoughtful and introspective and revolutionary. He was also just like womanizer, like, just like all this stuff. So yeah, balance within a discography and balance not necessarily being on the same project. Just so catchy, a lot of great moments. I really like it as just like a 2024. This is the synthesis of this moment. And I think we'll look back on it that way too, the way we look back at a lot of great albums this year. Um, so yeah, I'll give it 9 wah high out of 10.
Everyone said so much, so I don't feel like I need to reiterate many points. I think I'm just going to touch on what I said at the beginning, that I think that this is no filler. I think this is very clean and straight to the point. I love the vibes across the LA vibes. Yeah, I'm excited for the PG Lang era of Kendrick and to see what it means to have efforts outside of the TDE machine and their boot camp / timelines too, because they be making people wait over there at TDE. So yeah, shout out to them. I'm gonna give this 8.5 rap battles in the Nickersons.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our episode on GNX by Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, Christina, Racquel, thank you so much for joining the discussion. I felt it was a little we had to truncate it a little bit because it's just like there's so much density. I would have loved to like mine some of those the territory of like, oh, that's a great thread, but we can't do that right now. But yeah, like all in all, a great episode though. Where can people follow you to?
You don't need to follow me.
Okay.
I don't got nothing to say. I don't got nothing to say outside of this podcast.
I mean, I don't necessarily have anything to say either, but it's The Rock. ITSTHERAC on Instagram, Twitter. I spy on TikTok, but I don't use TikTok.
I spy.
Respectable, respectable.
Yeah.
That's the only way. What's our next? What's the next album? What's our next album, guys? Like,
we'll talk about that
together?
off air.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
but
sorry,
you can follow the show at IBMTLTT on all platforms. John Butts is here. Stenley at Snap a Sten. Like and subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify. And Christina, any final thoughts you want to throw out there?
Love y'all.
Okay, what about Racquel? What is the final thought for you?
Just thank you guys for the space and for all the ideas and opinions on Kendrick. I could talk about him all day.
Yeah. All right. 3 more hours. Okay. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Yay. Click.